All right, here we go. Episode 6. Coach, I got to be honest, I am very excited about our guests today. I'll be perfectly honest in that if I was a parent of a young player, I would absolutely make sure that I got my kid in front of these two guys. Um, the positivity, the knowledge, the care, the know-how, and the presentational style of these two guys is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to hear what you guys have to contribute to today. And Kyle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll get going.
All right. Um, Kyle Schnitger. Um, been baseball has just. I mean, I've been around baseball more than I've been alive. I feel like I've been alive at this point. It's just always been a part of my life. From the minute I could hold a little, Fisher Price bat. That's every picture of me in my entire life. So I always say that I'm a better person around the game and when I'm with the game than when I'm not around it. And I've taken breaks, and I just know that that's who I am. So yeah, uh, played my high school baseball in New Mexico for probably one of the best coaches I could really ever ask for there. Great mentor, taught me a lot of stuff, a lot of everything, just from the right way to play the game, how to be intense, how to control that intensity because I was an extremely intense player. And then I was lucky enough to kind of continue my career at Newman University where I played outfield, and was lucky enough to have a graduate assistant year there. So coached, mainly worked with catchers and hitters there. So that kind of transitioned me into kind of what my life was after playing. Um, Really great opportunity. My wife went to school doing her doctorate program down in Georgia. And honestly, I was voluntold that I was going to go be the JV head coach over at the high school across the street from the middle school that I was teaching at. And I was just like, yeah, sign me up. I don't care. Yeah, this would be great. And I walked into one of the best baseball programs in Georgia in that East Cobb area at Walton High School, under the legendary Shane Amos, who's still there. He's been there for about 26 seasons, 3 or 4 state championships later. We were in 3 state championship tournaments while I was there, making it to the championship game twice. So that was pretty awesome. Taught me a lot just about how to work with the high school kid, not necessarily the college player, how to motivate, how to talk, how to work with parents. And then I got to come out here and be a part of Slammers. I've been a part of Slammers kind of off and on since 2005. Um, Fun fact: I coached Brian Asnikar. He was on my team, one of my first teams ever. Um, Sneaky athlete. Don't let him fool you. He was a pretty good player. so, but yeah. So, and then yeah, I'm in that area now where I'm a coach and a dad, and I've got a high school kid who's been playing high level ball since he was 10 years old, and kind of living that life of how do you balance that. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. But my wife's a coach, and so we've been in this coaching life for a long time. So we love it. It's a part of who we are, and I wouldn't change anything for it. So it's fantastic, and I get to work with awesome people that are here today. So, and I always learn something from Tag every time I talk to him. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, before I pass it to Tony, I will say that you are of the rarest breed in the baseball coaching profession. It is hard to come across a catching coach.
Mm.
Absolutely, and you're a phenomenal one, my friend.
Hey, thank you. It's a passion of mine. It's something I always wanted to be. Well, that's not true. That's not true. In Little League, a quick story. Sorry, funny story. In Little League, my coach brings us all together, and I was super excited to play for this guy. He was like that guy in your town that everybody wants to play for, And he was just a guy that was always there and always like hitting ground balls to kids. And he drafted me, and I was so excited to play for him. And I was the first baseman. I was always a first baseman. That was me. I was like, hey, the ball's not getting. I'm going to catch everything. Um, and he says, hey, who can catch? And I'm looking around and nobody's raising their hand. I'm like, we can all catch. Why wouldn't we be here? It's baseball. You got to be able to catch. So I raised my hand and he goes, all right, cool. Go put the gear on. And I moped. I was like, no, that's where the bad kid plays, because I was coming from like coach pitch and like, from this, and now I'm in Little League where, and I come home from practice. My dad's like, how was your first day? I was like, oh, They want me to be the catcher. And my dad goes, that's freaking awesome, man. That's the most important spot. And ever since that day, I was like, well, I'm going to be the best dang catcher there ever was. So, and I've been a catcher ever since. So, and I love it. I love working with kids. I love teaching the sport, the position. It's my favorite thing to do. So, thanks, man.
Absolutely. Tony, give your background and to the audience.
Like Kyle, baseball has been a part of my life for a long time. Baseball actually enabled me to get a college degree, so I'm really thankful for baseball. And I've been working at Slammers for a year and a half now and love it. And I've been coaching college kids for this will be my 8th year actually. So just stuff has fell into my lap, and I've kind of embraced it. I fought it for kind of a while after college, but it's just always going to be part of my life. And I've been around some good people that have mentored me. So my love for the game just grows hanging around you guys and, some others who've taken a liking to me and helped me out through the years.
You played at Colorado State when they had a team.
Yeah. So I started at a junior college in California. I came home after my freshman year to play in the summer league here, and then the CSU coach actually was at one of my games, Tom Wheeler, and had me come to his car after the game. And a week later, I was enrolled at CSU, so which was kind of cool, I thought. So, but then
Yeah, absolutely.
he leaves and goes to St. Mary's, so.
Yeah,
But
Tom's great. I saw him last week at the Erie Broomfield game.
yeah,
Had a
he
chance
called
to
me.
catch up with him. Yeah, that was outstanding. Before we jump into the first segment, I'll get to our sponsor here. Our first segment sponsor, we haven't had any sponsors, but we have a sponsor this week, and it's bananas. You want to stop cramping as the heat gets hot? Eat banana.
Monkey never cramp.
That's uh, Tony, let's get started and tell the audience a little bit about the Boulder Collegians and just the summer collegiate baseball scene, and particularly now in the state of play that is college athletics and how fluid it is. I'm sure that you have conversations with college coaches and you see what goes out into college baseball and is successful. Tell us a little bit about when you see a player that comes and plays for you in the summer collegiate league. What sticks out to you about what's going to make them successful at that level?
Basically, a lot of their attitude, hungry guys who want to improve and develop. That's what stands out. And of course, some of the physical tools obviously will stand out after a while, but it's just mostly the attitude and them wanting to work and, get better. And they all aspire to the next level. Most will never get there, but some do. Like in the last 6 years, I've had 12 guys sign professional contracts. 2 of those got drafted. And so just a special kind of kid. So it's fun. And the collegians have been around since 1964. And I actually was doing some math the other day. Over about 160 people have played for the collegians, have went on to play pro baseball, and just over 100 have reached the major leagues.
Wow.
Including Tony Gwynn played for the Legions, Joe Carter, Mark Langston, um, Bob Horner, Bobby Meacham, who I talked to the other day. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on.
That's crazy. That's awesome that you're continuing that tradition. I had no idea. I had no idea that it had that kind of attrition. That's amazing. Where do you guys play?
We play in Boulder at Scott Carpenter Park. So we played
Awesome.
there since the inception and since 1964.
Wow. Every year at Scott Carpenter?
Yep.
Wow. That's incredible. Kyle,
Yeah.
we approach the summer season. What is the proper mindset for a player who's going to go out on the circuit and go out and play in front of college coaches? What is the goal? What is the right mindset? What is the right frame of what a kid wants to accomplish if they want to impress a college coach?
I always tell my guys, and I don't have the highest level team, but I always tell them that that doesn't matter. The the opportunities are always going to present themselves. You just don't know when or where or how or what the thing that you're going to do that day is going to make a positive impression on a coach. Um, whether it's how you run out a walk, or the way, if you're a catcher, for example, how you handle a pitcher in a stressful situation. What's your body language towards that? How do you work with them? It's always be ready to be noticed in a positive way, from the minute you step onto the field till you get to the van, really, because you don't know what eyes are going to be on you. And just from personal experience, you don't know who's going to be watching you that day that might be willing to give you an opportunity, or wants to open up a conversation. So don't give them a reason to cross you off a list. Give them every single reason they possibly can to put you on a list and want to talk to you more and want to follow you more. So it can be small, little intangible things, um, that get guys that are really talented ball players crossed off some of those lists, because they may not be come across as coachable. They may not come across as a team guy. They may not come across as somebody that's willing to put the effort in and work. Um, it's easy. They want to see how you handle adversity more so than how you handle your successes. So that's always something that I try to stress with everybody, that you never know who's watching, and you don't know what they're actually looking for. So don't give them a reason not to pay attention to.
Good. Nino's having some technical difficulties, I think.
He's going to be coming in hot after
Yeah,
this.
he is. He's going to be coming in hot. Absolutely. Kyle, I'm going to stick it with you. I want to stick with you. Talk about catchers. There's kind of there's a perspective, I would say, or the general reputation of a catcher is that if you're a catcher, that it's easier to get recruited. Would you say that that's true?
I think it's a very valuable position at the college level, but there are very specific intangible qualities that you have to be able to express as a catcher that a lot of coaches maybe don't have the time to really dive into at a deep level, because as a head, I mean, it's difficult as a head coach. You're not always able to give those guys the attention that they need, for that. And some people are good at it, and some people, you're managing, 27 kids, 20 to 24 kids sometimes, and you're worried about playing time, and getting guys opportunities, and things like that. That sometimes, a solid, like, serviceable catcher is okay, but I don't think I think a very solid, you know, catcher that can swing the bat a little bit, yes, that's a great place to be, in my opinion. But I think that the requirements for being a catcher at the Division 1 level or the next level, the requirements have gone much higher. They're exponentially higher nowadays than they would be, because they're asked to do so much more. Um,
Will you speak to those
yeah,
requirements? What are those? When
yeah.
you say requirements, what are they?
I think some of the biggest things for me personally is your attitude, and your leadership qualities. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to be. And I tell this to my son. My son's a catcher all the time. I said, I know your personality. You're not a rah rah guy. You're not that guy that's gonna lead from the front. You're gonna kind of be a lead by example, kind of dude. I said, but you need to learn to be vocal when it's necessary. You don't need to be vocal just for the sake of being loud and out there and noticeable. You need to do it at the times when things are important. Um, so, attitude, leadership quality. How are you handling things in the dugout? How do you handle your responsibility as a catcher? Because the catcher is team first. There's a lot of things that are going to get neglected from you from a personal side of things. You're not going to get the extra swings, the extra stuff. That's going to have to come from you on your own time. A lot of times, you're going to be sacrificing yourself in the bullpen, working with pitchers, understanding them, knowing their personalities, understanding their strengths better than they do, understanding their weaknesses on a given day, and and talking to them. You know, whether you're leading off the inning or not, you're going to be taking that extra moment to, hey, sit down, talk to them in between innings, and either, hey, you got to pump them up, or you got to tell them, hey, we're staying right here. We got 3, 4, 5 coming up next inning. You know, stick with the same mental approach. I'm going to go hit, and then we'll talk about it. You know, some more. So how you handle a staff, how you work with pitchers, how do you interact with the umpire? Those are going to be really, really important intangible skill sets that I look for with a catcher, and I try to teach with my guys to do. And to and it's kind of a weird thing that I say to guys. I said, and it's hard. And if this isn't the mentality, if you want to be noticed all the time, and you want to be recognized for everything that you do, and you want those pats on the back, and you want a handshake all the time, and you want people to tell you how great you are, then don't catch. Because some of the best games that you'll ever have are games where nobody knows you're even there. Because that means the ball's not getting to the backstop. That means that the umpire is protected. That means that you're pitching. You're not. There's no pass balls. You're not missing calls. You're not misreceiving things. You know, you're in the right spot at the right time. You're backing up bases. You're communicating well. So, you know, if somebody comes up to you and doesn't say a dang thing, normally you've probably done a really, really good job. And it might just be an attaboy from the umpire at the end of the game when you shake his hand and say, thank you, sir. You know, have a good night. You know, so it's thankless, and you have to be able to accept that and know that you did a good job. So, which I think is very hard for kids, especially nowadays, you know, because there's lots of recognition out there.
There's lots of recognition, and the game's changed. Tony, let me ask you: in the summer when you coach the collegians, do you call pitches or do you let the catcher call pitches?
Catchers. I went to college as a catcher. Nobody ever called pitches for me. I don't think you learn the game with a coach calling pitches. They call their own pitchers. And when I talk to the catchers, once they sign, I'm up front, you're calling games, and they all love it. I've been fortunate the last couple of years. I've had some really good catchers. I had a catcher from San Diego State last year. That kid was phenomenal. Loved the kid.
What stuck out to you? What makes you say that he was phenomenal?
You know, as Kyle, his leadership quality wasn't a rah-rah guy, but he was calm, controlled the game. He was a great receiver, great hands. And all the umpires loved the kid. I mean, he would, you know, just based on his personality behind the plate, you know, he's got a lot of strikes called that weren't strikes. He was just, you know, he could throw out runners. It was just those type of catchers that can, like a second coach out there, a coach on the field. That's what impresses me.
I feel like with how much coaches call pitches now, particularly at the catching position, it would be like I caught a little bit too. And calling the game mentally, I feel like there's a different energy to it in how you're in sync and in tune with the rhythm of the game. Kyle, how does a catcher who does not call pitches, how do they keep that edge and that presence in them like they are calling the game?
I think even if a coach is calling pitches, which Tony, I totally agree with you. I think I always called my own game. I never had pitches called for me. There were moments in college where there were some suggestions thrown in, and that was always just the expectation that you were going to control the game, you were going to understand counts, you were going to look into those kinds of situations. I think as a catcher, when a coach is calling pitches, a lot of times we have people keeping charts or, you know, doing something. You know, if we've got POs on the team, you got to give those guys something to do, right? You know, so, you know, but they're not keeping a chart. Make it to the point where they're not keeping a chart just for the sake of keeping a chart, to keep those guys busy, keep them doing something, so they're not throwing plyo balls off the wall in a dugout or something. Get with the coach. Talk over at bats, talk over sequencing, understand, hey, why are we throwing pitches here? Look at that, look at those charts, and then if you might not disagree, make suggestions. Like, hey, he's, you know, this is what I'm seeing, this is where he's standing in the box. There's a lot of stuff that a guy, you know, 45 feet away, sitting on a bucket with the wrong angle, might not be seeing, because you're right there, you're in that presence, you're seeing that, you're reading body language. You might even hear him say something under his breath, you know, that's an indicator. and make those notes, understand, even if he's calling pitches, I want to have a game plan for, hey, I got 5, 6, 7 coming up. It's a Rolodex of what did they do their last at bat? What did we get them out on? What are we looking at? And then controlling that from a sequencing standpoint, even just with like, hey, I want to mix in some shakes here, or like, hey, we're going to shake fastball. We're going to, hey, I'm going to, we're going different sequence. I'm going to, hey, talking to the pitcher saying, hey, look, I'm going to keep them thinking, so we're going to mix in some shakes. We're going to do that. I'm going to call what he's calling if that's the expectation for the coach, but I can still control the tempo. I can control the sequencing. I can control if he's shaking, I can control picks. Those are different things that we can do that I have in my tool bag, even if I'm not necessarily calling that game. Right. So helping him control the run game, helping him, keep hitters off balance by mixing in those things like a shake off here or there, just give him one of these, hey, shake, hey, we're going right back to fastball there. Cool. Here we go. You'd be surprised how much that really will. And from a hitting perspective, you're like, shake, shake, shake. I didn't know we had 4. I didn't have 4 pitches. I didn't think, like, what's this 4th one coming in? So it's that whole, for me, it was like always that whole mental chess game of, keeping them off balance. Obviously sticking with what works, but even as a coach calling pitches, I find out that they run into sequences quite a bit, and trying to make sure that, things are just keeping hitters off balance and keeping them off time, so.
Yeah, catching's so nuanced. And you mentioned something there, Kyle, that I'm interested in Tony's perspective of. Tony, how does a catcher control the tempo of a game, even if he's not calling pitches? What are some tactics a good catcher has that helps them control the tempo of the game?
Getting the ball back quick, getting in your signs, knowing, keeping the tempo. You're running the pitcher's game. Just tempo to me. The quicker the tempo, get that pitcher in a rhythm and stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if he's dialed and he's got a rhythm going, why disrupt that? We don't need to mess with that. I don't need to go talk to him. I don't need to do anything, crazy. We just need to, if he's just like, yes, sir, here we go, and he's confident in his stuff, that's great. Keep it there. If there's doubt, if there's hesitation, then, hey, you call time, there's been times where I've just been like, hey, time, he's like, what? I was like, my mask was falling off. It might not even be that, but I'm just trying to get him a blow, trying to get him a little bit of break, but not wasting a mound visit or anything like that, or just even calling time and reminding of a bunt coverage or something like that. Just, something that's just kind of within the concept of the game, but it's strategic in the fact that, like, I need to slow him down. I need to get him to take a breath. Like, if things are moving in that opposite direction. Right. But yeah, like you said, boom, strike, get it back. If he's feeling it, like, let's keep this going, man. Momentum is a killer, especially with that kind of stuff on the mound.
I'll say this. If I'm a catcher, there's 2 things I think in terms of intangibility. I think that that's another thing too, is about, as a catcher, you want to demonstrate that you have an awareness of how your intangibles influence the game. And I think the 2 intangibles that a catcher, 2 levers that they can pull at all times. First of all, fill the space of the field with your voice. Have a commanding presence with your voice. You don't have to necessarily yell, but I think that it's a kind of a covert demonstration of leadership. If you have the ability to fill the field with your voice. Second, throw the ball down to second base in between innings like it's the game every single time. Don't ever miss an opportunity. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. During the summer, I'll have a stopwatch, and before he gets to throw it down every inning, I'm like, give me a time. So I'll clock it just to make sure that they do that.
Yeah.
Even if I don't clock it, I have my stopwatch out, give me a time, just so they show off their arm, just like, because I think that's important. I think, that'll open a lot of eyes sometimes.
Absolutely. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Kyle.
Sorry.
No, go
No,
ahead.
no, you're just sometimes you're just limited in your opportunities for an opportunity to show what you can do in a game situation. You might play a 9 inning ball game and nobody steals. You might have a lefty on the mound that's just got a great move, and or he's just changing tempo, doing a great job holding runners. And thank you. You don't want to discourage that from a pitcher, because I feel like controlling the run game from a pitching perspective is a lost art. It's something that is not. It's something that you try so hard to teach it. And I think that's where catchers being guys with that's we've talked about this. The pop time has become such a huge number for a lot of people from a recruiting standpoint. I don't think pop time 100% translates into your ability to throw runners out. You have to demonstrate. Tony, it's a perfect example. You have to demonstrate footwork, arm slot, and they might not see that if you're just lollipopping that thing in between innings, right?
Right. Yep.
Show them that you have technique, show them that you have footwork, show them that you have potential to be a guy that consistently throws the ball down there extremely well, and leaves it into the hands of the guys that are supposed to be some of the best players on the team, right? Those middle infield guys, best, good glove guys, good hands. Give them opportunities to do what they do, but demonstrate that you have the ability and the technique to get into the right position, because man, I didn't throw under 2-0 until I was in college. I was a 2-0, 2-1 guy in high school and threw a lot of guys out. I had a great shortstop. I mean, I just knew if I got it to Josh Abeda, that guy was going to get it. That guy was going to he was going to make a tag. He was, he was my Javi Baez. You know what I mean? From that perspective, and my whole goal was just give him a chance, be accurate, and work on that. So, but yeah, from a recruiting standpoint, from that perspective, from a college coach, those pop times that they're getting stopwatched on in between, that might be the only time where they're really looking at it and going, okay, I like the feet, I like the hands, I like the arm slot. We put a little, we get him on a throwing program. We put a little weight on this kid. We can get a 1.9. We can get a 1.9 out of that dude. And then now we're talking. So, but if you don't show him that, if you're lollipopping it from your knees or doing something ridiculous in between innings, that's not.
Oh, nice to be here.
Hey, Nino.
Yeah. Wow.
Room number 4.
Yeah.
Room number 4. Wi-Fi. Hey, Coach, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're I think get into the move on from the catching conversation and go into a hitting one. Tell me, oh, he's gone. He's gone. I bet he's at Starbucks next.
Tony's doing better in his car.
Tone, you work with hitters every day. I listen to you in the cage often. Often I listen to you in the cage. I absolutely love the way you speak to habits. I love the way you speak to habits. And I got to be honest with you, I've seen you work with 8-year-olds and I've seen you work with 16-year-olds, and you basically say the same thing, and you reinforce some really great ways that hitters can stick out. Great habits, simple things that, if repeated, really help you stick out. Tell me, how does what when a hitter is taking batting practice or hitting in a game, what sort of things are college scouts looking for in those environments to potentially add to their team?
Well, that's, quick hands, their hands, and how they use the ground as leverage. Hands, especially, every summer I come across these kids, some on my team, some other teams, that just unbelievable hand speed. It's like, man, that's impressive. But, you start figuring out how to teach it and how to be repeatable with a bunch of stuff so you can be consistent.
Yeah.
Coach, before we lose you again, what about you? When you're watching a hitter, let's just say take batting practice. You roll into Slammers and you're watching. If we're sitting there and we got 6 cages of hitters that are going, as you scan left to right, and front to back, what are the things that stick out to you about a kid that you watch? They go, man, that kid can hit. Oh, oh,
I wanted that answer. I
oh.
wanted that answer so bad.
So did
What
I.
is going on here today?
Well, I mean, he's sticking with it too. That was his third try from that room.
Oh man, it's a good question. That's a really great question.
Yeah. How about you, Kyle? Why don't you answer that for me?
Oh, okay. There's a couple of things. I like repeatability, and consistency, and you see this a lot of time with young hitters, that maintaining a consistent approach and swing, even in batting practice, sometimes can be a struggle. They're still learning their bodies, and they're still. When I see a kid that's in control of his swing and the load is consistent, the timing of getting to launch is consistent, his bat path is consistent, they're staying in the zone and they're finishing through contact, things like that, and then they go back and they do the exact same thing for 5, 6, no matter where the ball is, right? The ball can be off the plate, in the zone, out of the zone, but the swing stays relatively consistent from swing 1 to swing 10 or swing 8, whatever it is that they're getting. I love seeing that, because that's a great base. That's a great platform to build off of, right? If you have somebody that's really in tune with what they're doing from a positioning standpoint, then it's just small tweaks, things that we can do, maybe get a little bit more hands back. Like we were working with a kid the other day. It's just like, how do we get you into a better, consistent position to really create that bat path that we're looking for, because everything else is relatively the same, so, but getting a little bit more consistency. So I love seeing.
Yeah, hopefully I'm here.
Coach, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to ask you a question again. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to personalize it and share with the audience a little bit about what's special between you and I. So, I was not recruited by you out of college, but I ended up by my sophomore year. You became my
Ah. Oh.
It was a good
Toying with
question
us.
too. It was a
Toying
really
with
good
us.
question. I mean, I don't even feel like I'm going to get it out at this point. Maybe I could answer it for him. Here we go, because I know what he's going to say because we've had the conversation 20 times. My freshman year, I hit 4 home runs, and after the fall, in our exit meeting, I came with my season goals, and I think that my goal was to hit 10 home runs. And he told me that he thought that was dramatically underdoing it, and that he thought that I could hit 30 home runs. He said that. I had 4 the year before.
Wow.
And as fate would have it, I hit exactly 30 home runs. And what I wanted to ask him what I wanted to ask him was, what was the difference? Because I know that when he showed up, that he saw the 4 home run guy. And then by the end of the fall, he was convinced, or at least convinced enough to tell me that he thought that I could hit 30 home runs. And what I know and what I feel that he was going to say, because we've had the conversation before, was a lot what you said, Kyle, was the consistency. What Coach G's presence did in my life and as a player was he made me much less emotional. He made me understand the importance of function over feeling. And I wanted to segue, and I want the audience to understand that the consistency of your approach and the demonstration of your ability to handle emotion and handle failure is very, very important. And I was a coach's kid. My dad was a college football coach. I could not have asked for a better upbringing and better coaching. But what I was not very good at was, in fact, I was told this, like I approached baseball like a football player. And I had very much an effort equals outcome sort of mentality. And it really didn't serve me well. And that was in him being at times confrontational, but him instilling in me a habit of managing my emotions in the batter's box and not demonstrating frustration, not necessarily for anybody else, but myself. And always keeping a mindset of having function over feeling. What are you trying to do? And it's always about the next swing. It's always about being in the moment. And when you lose your emotions particularly as a hitter, when you lose your emotions, it really disrupts your body's ability to operate. It disrupts that brain to body connection. And I think that's what I wanted to get out of it was I think that kids, and it was the same thing with the kid that we were working with, Kyle, you could see him getting frustrated, and then it was disrupting his ability to take even one adjustment that you or I was giving him and being able to repeat it. The consistency of your emotions and the consistency of your approach is way more important than your approach being the best approach. I say it all the time that I tell you what, I played with some great hitters, a handful of Hall of Famers, dozens of all-stars. And let me tell you, they didn't do everything right. The difference between them and most others was the clarity and conviction in what they were doing. That the clarity and conviction that you have as a hitter is as important as what you're trying to do. And I think that hitting's hard, clearly. Anything rotational is going to be very technical, and you're going to have your own style. You're going to have your own way that you operate. But I think it's really important for teenagers to understand that when they are performing, the ability to manage themselves and the ability to maintain consistency is going to serve them well, not only in the performance of them on the field, but also in how they represent themselves to recruiters and people that hold opportunities that they want to secure. So thanks, Coach. When you get back, speaking of Coach, when he gets back. Oh man. Tony, good. I have this good question for you. If I'm a parent and I have a really talented kid and he's good, and I know that he's good and he does really well, but then when we go and play in wood bat tournaments, he doesn't do very good. What's up with that?
I'm not used to swinging wood. I mean, it's a whole different game. The sweet spot's smaller on wood, and most kids, they invest in the $400 bats. But I think training on wood's important from a young age. It teaches you how to be a hitter and how to get the barrel to the ball.
What about you, Kyle?
No, it's funny that I saw this. You were talking about this, being a topic and something that we were going to talk about. I had a mom at a high school game, so my son's 15. He's played with more wood than I ever did when I was coming up. One, I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the resources my son has. But I eventually, as a player, learned I need to be swinging wood. This is going, and I had a guy that just, he was just a dad, but he would throw batting practice to us as long as we wanted to. It was a group of like 6 of us that would be there through the off season, all through the year. And I was always the young guy, and I was the guy with the aluminum bat. And he goes, "Get yourself a wood bat." And I said, "Well, why? I mean, I'm swinging aluminum. I don't, And he goes, "Because real hitters can hit with wood." And I was like, okay, Gene, okay. And I totally agree. I think I can't hit with wood is something that I hear all the time. Coach, can we swing aluminum this tournament? I was like, no, we swing wood. Well, why? I was like, it makes you a better consistent hitter. And just from the exact same reasons that Tony said, the cream rises to the crop when you change that. There's a little bit more standardization with it. It's not, you literally don't buy hits with you can go out there and you can spend, some families can get a $250 bat, $250 bat. Some families can get a $600 bat. And I've seen it, it definitely translates into some different things. I was a high 300s hitter in college with aluminum, and I was a 301 hitter in the summer with very few extra base hits with wood. And it's because I didn't train with it as much as I probably should have. Sweet spot's smaller, balance point's different. Everybody says that it kind of works itself out in the wash. The hard hit balls with the line, with the aluminum, sometimes those get caught, whereas those will be like singles over the second baseman with wood. I just don't believe that. If you can hit with wood, you can hit with anything. And
Yep.
it's a game changer when it comes down to it. And because the margin for error really demonstrates your ability to be like we said, consistent. It really shows strength in hands, and like can you control a barrel? Like what's your barrel control like? That's completely different with a wood bat than it is with an aluminum bat. And I don't think anybody's ever going to really could be able to convince me otherwise. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the the best advice, and it wasn't really advice. Uh, no, my dad didn't make me do really anything. He suggested things. The optional, mandatory types of practices. My dad was like one of those guys, right?
Yeah.
And anyways, from the time I was 10 years old, uh, I always took batting practice. I always took batting practice with the wood bat. And his theory was this. He goes, it's smaller and it's heavier. When you go back to aluminum, you're going to be a better hitter. So if you have time to put in, hit with a wood bat. The first thing that I would say in my answer to my own question is that hit with a wood bat more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of simple as that,
Mhm.
but and it sounds better.
Oh
Yes.
God. Yes, it does. Listen to us, the old guys.
It just sounds better, and I don't
It's
feel like
the crack of the
anybody could
bat, man.
disagree with that. Not even the kids could disagree. And I feel like some of the aluminum bats, they've tried to make sound like wood, and then it
Mhm.
just sounds like stuffed up newspaper.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. Yeah, that's how Declan. This is how Declan, who's my 15-year-old. That's how he starts every session. Every session is with wood, from the tee to front toss to, we've been doing some stuff because you know, he's been seeing struggling a little bit with balls at the top of the zone, like things with a little bit of velo and a little bit of carry. Maybe you don't see that a ton. He's on JV, but every once in a while you run into that kid, on these deeper programs where there's a little bit of carry, and we've been actually putting the machine on the ground and having that, just kind of having that trajectory to it with a little bit of velo, because you can only simulate that so much with like an underhand flip or throwing darts, when you're sitting off a stool or something like that. So we've actually put the machine on the ground and actually been creating that carry. But he's using wood there, and then we'll transition. We'll alternate rounds. He'll do aluminum and he'll do wood and and it's gotten to the point where, like, dang it, the kid's almost more comfortable and he's almost more productive with a wood bat sometimes. Because it's just something that he's used to swinging a little bit more. But um, it gives him. I think the wood bat has taught him the the smaller details of hitting. When he's with wood, how to change an approach, how to what is his approach, with a plus count versus a an 0-2 or a two strike count, or even from a situational hitting standpoint, um, less than 2 outs, runner on third. Like, what am I trying to do? Like, what am I trying to do here? How can I, putting together good team at bats, because his margin for error with a wood bat is, not as good, So when he's hitting with aluminum, you can kind of get that little, you can be ahead, kind of get that little rollover, or you can kind of get that little flare that goes over the second baseman. But with a wood bat, you might not. That the exit, the hard hit ball rate off of that is going to be a little bit smaller. So his understanding of what he needs to do to be able to be successful in an at bat, not just from a standpoint of can I get a hit, but can I do the job that is required. I think it dials in that focus a little bit more, from that standpoint. So
I think my best advice on the wood bat training is, if you're a parent, and even if you're a parent who doesn't throw good batting practice, and I know how hard it is for some people to throw batting practice, I think the best drill for a young player and a developing one, 8, 9, 10 years old, is if you can learn how to strike the ball that creates backspin with some carry to the, like, through the back of the cage, right? Not on the left side, not on the right side, not on top of the cage, but if you can just work on carrying a ball with backspin to the back of the cage with a wood bat, you are I feel like you're getting 2 to 3 for every one with your aluminum bat.
Mhm.
And one thing, and I think this is why a lot of kids Declan's not the first. There's many that are like, if they swing a wood bat enough, they feel like they like the feel more. And the reason why they like the feel more is because the wood flexes. And so you actually get some extra time in the zone. An aluminum and a metal bat, they don't flex, right? So you're swinging a pipe, you're swinging a rod, and it is staying in a straight line, and it's moving with your hands, and the exit velocity is higher or whatnot. It was funny. I probably, when I became a pro, I don't think I swung after I left college. I didn't swing an aluminum bat for 2 years. I can remember this because I just didn't touch one for 2 years. And then one day back on campus, I picked up an aluminum bat, and all I did was pop stuff up. And it literally, I popped stuff up or I rolled it over, and I was like, and I think it was another 2 years, I think, before I hit with an aluminum bat again. Wood bat, but back to my training advice for parents, like flips. Most kids try to do too much when they go train. They try to do entirely too much and try to lift the ball. If you just stand from 7, 8 feet away, underhand flip balls right down the middle, and just work on mastering the skill of having the same timing and control of ball flight with a wood bat to the back of the cage, that is as good as any drill. That is as good as hitting off of velocity. You can succeed enough to gain confidence, and it is going to make you a better hitter, no doubt. Tony, tell me about a tough conversation that you've had with a college kid. And my frame for this question is, tell me about a tough conversation, and tell me, when you have tough conversations with kids, what's required of them in order to respond?
Emotional maturity to respond, but some of the tough conversations is some pitchers, mechanically they're just not there. You video them, try to show them, point it out, and I don't know where they learned some of this stuff, but some of those conversations can get kind of tough. But in order for them to grow, they need to be able to take some constructive criticism, knowing that we're talking to them to get them better. So, hitting wise too, a 2 years ago, we had a kid from Azusa Pacific, big uppercut. Spent most of the summer striking out. We were in a tough game. We needed to win. We had bases loaded, 2 outs. I asked him, just hit a line drive. Just hit the ball hard, but a line drive. Keep it out of the air. Well, he proceeded to strike out, swinging from his ass. 3 straight pitches. 2 of them weren't even strikes. You know what? He came back to the dugout, was pissed at me. And it's like, hey, your way is not going to, you're not going to have much success with that kind of swing at the college level. And he didn't want to change. And last time I looked him up, he was hitting like 120 and wasn't playing much at Azusa Pacific. But those are the conversations that get tough. But he had no concept. He thought he knew it all. So I think in order for them to realize, they have to be able to accept some, not criticism, but just accept help. That people are there trying to help them obtain their goals. And the ones that aren't capable of doing that don't have much success.
Kyle, I want to ask you the same question, but I want to ask you from a player's perspective. What's your advice? What's your advice for a player when they receive critique or criticism, however we want to call it, or when they have conversations with coaches? Let's even say, and I feel like this is less common, where coaches are like, have confrontational style. I feel like that's less common than it used to be. But even in a confrontational situation, how does a player demonstrate that they're listening? How do they receive? Talk about the communication skills that a young player should have when they have tough conversations with coaches.
That's a good question. I think that a player, the first and foremost, they need to recognize that if a coach is coming to you to have a conversation, that's a positive situation for you as a player. There's that old adage that if the minute they stop talking to you, that's when you need to start worrying. If they're kind of on your ass and they're consistently expecting more from you, it's because they feel like you have more to give. So understand that when a coach is coming to you with a comment or advice or a perspective that they want to share with you, that is coming out of a place where they feel that you have the capacity to meet the expectations that they're trying to give you. So be receptive and be understanding to that conversation. Look them in the eye. Listen. Don't be so rushed to have a comment or a rebuttal to what it is that a coach might be saying to you. Well, coach, this is how I've always done that. I mean, this is how I swing. No, don't, put it, listen, make eye contact, try your best to put what they're trying to give you into practice. Whether you think it's valuable or not, that's not the point. The point is that they see something and you have to trust in that they've had a lot of time to evaluate and see players that you can trust that they're not going to try to give you advice so that you fail. That's not in their best interest as a coach. And that's different at every level. I mean, we see that more in the college game now. I mean, winning is a priority. There's a lot of jobs riding on wins and loss records and things like that. But for me and like Tony and you, and when we're working with kids, it doesn't matter how many guys we get to, Division 1 or 2, or how many guys get drafted. We do this because we genuinely want to see success for these kids and we want to do what is best for them. So understanding that advice is coming from a place of, I don't know, it's a heartfelt place where we want to contribute to your successes. Nobody goes out there going, well, I hope that kid fails if you're working with them, because you want them to be there. So understand that this is because they see something in you that you may not see in yourself, and they're trying to be able to get that over to you in a positive way.
I don't think I could overstate how important some of those moments are, as a player, because it's a crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a crossroads, and a player's ability to demonstrate maturity, to demonstrate communication skill, to demonstrate openness. I really think that how a player should approach coaching evaluation and coaching recommendation is, you want more of that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, you want to go on to the next one. And Nino's mentioned on a previous episode, I think I asked him, what is a relationship with a great player like? And he said, it's a conversation. It's a never ending conversation. And I really think that if parents can prepare their children for tough conversations and to have the courage to maintain eye contact, to have the toughness to receive critical information and be bold enough in your goals to receive it because that's what you need to get better. That is a skill in and of itself. And outside of the 0.01% of the players that are just uber talented, for the rest of the 99.99% of us, that's a skill that is part of of putting the pieces of the puzzle together to gain the opportunities that you want. And whether it be at a university or just more playing time, the ability to have tough conversations and make them productive and implement the tools that you're given and the advice that you're given, that is a skill in and of itself that is really, really important for a young player to have.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tona, are we good?
Yep, we're
You got
good.
me?
Yep. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
I got a question. I got a question for you.
Okay.
How does a parent, Kyle, I'm going to ask you the same question too. I'm going to follow up with the exact same question. How does a parent promote their kid without overdoing it?
Basically, kind of be humble about it, not lay on, because coaches are, people are smart. You tell them too much, they realize they're getting a lot of smoke. You know, you just want to be, hey, love an opportunity, or here's what do you think he could work on, stuff like that. Um, I'm trying to think back to my two kids. I would just video them, and I had two kids who played college baseball. I just didn't. I was honest. Hey, it's not perfect. Needs to work on stuff, but here's what they can do, and here's some video hitting, fielding, throwing, and just let it be at that. There's camps people can go to. I think that's important if you can afford it. Picking, actually that'll get your name out there, but you need to go places that you're interested in going to school. I'm not a big showcase guy. I just think I think those are money grabs a lot, and a lot of colleges will hold these camps, and it's basically to bring in money to pay some assistant coaches or volunteer coaches. So I'm just, I think establishing maybe emails with the coach from the kid. Um, I think it's important for the kid to do all the reaching out.
So do I.
That's the big part. I think coaches want to hear from the kids and their perspective. I think that means more to coaches, at least the ones I talk to. Or, maybe another coach reaches out to somebody on their behalf, with some credibility. I think that's huge too, because the way the portal's sitting now with everybody, I think it's just so many kids in the portal. I think you have to have some type of um, verification system, like some of the kids that come for the summer, they're looking for 4-year schools or maybe to transfer, and I'll reach out, and that's been a good, successful way of doing it. I don't overdo it. I tell them, hey, this is what they do. This is where they can develop, but I think your program can use them. And we've been pretty successful doing that.
Kyle, same question for you. How does a parent promote their player without overdoing it?
I think you need to educate the player as much as possible, like Tony said. I believe it's a whole lot more valuable for player to coach communication. Identifying those schools from a realistic standpoint of where you would like to go and like to study, and then secondarily, and then hey, let's look into the baseball program there, and then if it looks like a place that kind of balances and marries those two things together, then start to, we've been having this conversation with my son. Of course, he loves the sexy programs and all this kind of stuff, and but be honest and realistic with them. For Declan right now, it's he sees Wake Forest and Vanderbilt and these schools, and I said, okay. I totally understand. Those would be unbelievable landing spots for you to be able to have an opportunity to continue your baseball career. was like high academic places. You have to do it in both spots. And right now, understanding and communicating what his weaknesses are in some of those areas and things, but not coming from a place of that's not realistic. I want him to really embrace what he wants to do, but try to be a resource as much as possible. Don't say, "Oh, that's impossible," but you want to say, "Okay, that's great. What do you got to do to get there?" And here's those things without being overbearing with it. Recruiting is different from when I was there. It was, I was lucky enough to get spotted, playing in a tournament by the University of New Mexico, and there was some walk-on opportunities there. But I had a buddy that I worked out with all the time that said, "Do you want to go there and sit for 2 years, or do you want to play for 4 years?" And that's how I ended up where I was at. And that was all just word of mouth. He talked to the coach. I emailed the coach. I set up a tryout. I drove out there with my buddy in a truck and worked out in 30-degree weather, and they offered me on the spot, and I played there. That's just not how things are done nowadays. It's understanding, like Tony said, what's a realistic opportunity and what's a money grab. Who is legitimate, who is potentially legitimately interested in you. And as a parent, using the resources that you have. I've got a staff at Slammers that have unbelievable connections to places, and I tell him that. I said, "Hey, you'll have people in your corner. They're going to, but you have to make sure that you are a player that somebody is willing to put their reputation on the line for, to talk to somebody for you, which means you have to be on point with the things that are necessary for that particular school." Whether it's in a high academic school, then yes, your grades need to be where they need to be. You need to show that you're not an attendance problem. You need to make sure that you're a coachable player, and that your high school coach and your club coaches and the people that they might reach out to talk to are going to have positive things to say about you. And then the resources that I have, just from, coaching in the various places that I have, I'm not willing to put my, neck out on the line to put a kid somewhere and have them be a problem. That's where it's at for me. But as a parent, it's so hard, because all you want is success for yourself. And but I think I've done a good job of understanding who he is, his strengths, his weaknesses, communicating those with him, and telling him, not, honestly, just giving him an honest evaluation. Here's where you can be better. Here's where you can improve. And leaving it to him, with knowing that I'm here as a resource to put those things into practice. And like, how much do you want this? Kind of a don't talk about it, be about it kind of situation with him. But then also, you're his parent, so you want to be able to provide them with the best opportunity possible. I think that's all we want for our kids is we want them to be set up for a better opportunity than we ever had for ourselves. So, taking video and having those things, and when it's that time to start promoting and putting him out there, having those resources available. If somebody asks, "Hey, can I get a couple, I'd like some video of this, and this," and having those things available to them, talking to them about, creating a profile for yourself that presents you the way that you want people to see you, and the way that you are as a human being. Because that's just, I think that is becoming so important in the college game, is that they're not just recruiting anyone. They want solid individuals, with the resources they have available to them at the college level, to not have to worry about a kid. They want to be able to, they need to walk into the program and be able to be a contributor right away, without having them to, worry about, are they going to class? Are they going to show up on time? Are they going to be a good teammate? Are they going to be responsible for those? So those are the things that as a parent, you try to mentor into them. And it's funny, because my wife and I, we just had to recruit ourselves. We just had to reach out, and we just had to hope that, fingers crossed, somebody would do that. And then do the legwork that had to be done. Go to those tryouts, meet with those coaches, have the willingness to have those conversations. But yeah, we're in that weird. I'm in that weird place where I have a son he's a quality baseball player. He has strengths and he has weaknesses, and these are conversations we have on a weekly basis about what it is that you need to do to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So, but
I like what you just said there, and I think that that's a great piece of advice for parents. Is that you just said you have those conversations on a weekly basis, right? I think that it's really easy for kids to come into a fall situation in your senior year, say that you want to play college, and then you wait, and then winter's here, right? You do your thing. No, it is a weekly conversation that you have to push forward and develop your mentality to align with your goals and what you want to accomplish. Before we move on from this question and wrap it up, I have 2 do not do's for athletes and parents. First, if you go to a camp, do not show up to that camp and not know what the makeup of their roster is. I took my nephew to South Dakota State's camp, and my nephew is hilarious. He's great. He's an unbelievable kid, and he didn't even play really until like his 8th grade year to play baseball, and now he wants to go to the college that my dad, his grandpa, played at, and it's kind of the only, like, he just really wants to go there, right? And it's South Dakota State, and we show up, and after the camp, I asked him about his conversation with the coach, and he kind of told me some very generic things, and this is what I realized in that conversation, and I don't want to make it seem like I already knew this. It was a personal experience that kind of brought this to the front of my mind. I said to my nephew, I go, do you know, like, every player, you're going to go to a program and you fit the profile of a player who's already there. And the coach's mind and the framework of how a coach works is, I have this guy, like, there's the pipeline, right? It's very important that a player understands what kind of player they're going to replace. And how do you match what is in the program and being successful right now? How do you match the profile of it? And that's an important thing in the way that you carry yourself when you get to those camps and you have 60 kids and you want to stick out. Do you fit? Do they have a player like you're going to become? I feel like that's really important. That's the first don't do. Don't show up to a camp and not know the makeup of the roster and how your profile fits that. Here's the second one, and this is a big one. Don't ever send communications that you drafted with AI.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
I'm serious, because here's what players and parents need to understand is that however many emails and however many pieces of communication and reach outs that they receive, they don't check them every day. They don't, because they have 17 other things that they need to do. They check them in bulk at whatever frequency that works for their workflow. Okay. But they check them in bulk. And when you think of, as you read through 10s to 20s to 30s amounts of communications, I'm quite sure that it's pretty apparent when somebody has drafted something with the help of AI. Don't ever do that and expect to be taken seriously. That is my best piece of don't do advice. All right, guys. Last question. Yeah, that is definitely where we're at too. I can't imagine.
Well, I mean, and you're seeing that in the workforce too. You're seeing that just in life, like, and that's a red flag that, okay, they're relying on this situation to help them through. Like, they're going to be doing this in the classroom. We can't have this. Like, these are things that I never even would have thought of that. But that's really good. That's a really good point.
Never send an AI piece of communication. Don't.
Well, and I also I love the idea of, like, taking a look and understanding the makeup of the team. and where you're at. Like, is this even a realistic option for me as the player that I am, and where I might be in a couple of years? Do I have the capacity? And I needed somebody, and I'll try and keep it short. Sorry, I was lucky to have somebody that said, you're going to go to New Mexico and you're going to sit for 3 years and you might get 1 year of opportunities. Like, do you want to play 30 games or do you want to play 160 games? And I said, I want to play all the time. And he's like, I went there. He's like, I did the same thing. I went there. They said I could. They said I was going to have an opportunity. I never got a look. He's like, I'm telling you, there's an opportunity for you to play all the time if you want it. He's like, or you can go because you can say you went to a Division I school. And I was kind of, and all I ever wanted to be was a Lobo. I really did. I mean, I just wanted to play at the University of New Mexico so my dad could see every game and all that kind of stuff. But luckily the roster was not made up, and the recruiting class behind me was not made up of guys that I was going to be able to overtake or beat out or get an opportunity realistically. It just wasn't there. And it wasn't from a standpoint of, they don't recruit there. They don't recruit Santa Fe, New Mexico. They very rarely even recruit Albuquerque, New Mexico, which has ball players. At that point in time, it was Hawaii, Arizona, and California. That was what that roster was made up of. And when I really looked into it, I was like, oh, he's got a point. I should probably take a look at this other place. First and foremost, does this school have what I want? Yes, it does. Cool. Perfect. All right, cool. Let's talk to the coach. Yeah. He goes, yeah. Hey, come on out. When are you coming? Oh, I'm coming this weekend. All right, cool. Let's get you set up. I wouldn't change anything, and I can't say I played Division I baseball. I didn't play professionally, but the opportunities that it has given me in my life have been way better than had I gone somewhere else. Who knows if I'd have made it through the first 2 years there. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I did. Anyway.
I'll quickly add just a little bit of detail to my nephew's experience, because I really think the conversation has value for a parent or a player to understand how to stick out. So my nephew was there, and I said, so what'd the coach say to you? Or I said, what'd you say to the coach? And he said, I asked him what he's looking for. And I don't even remember what my nephew said that he said back. I said, well, do you think that if you had one question or if you had one interaction with him, I said, does that make you memorable? Did you demonstrate that you were prepared for that conversation with that question? Right. And we talked through it, and he said, no, probably not. And I said, if you would have done your due diligence and looked at the roster, you would have noticed that their cleanup hitter who led the league in home runs last year was a walk-on. Right. And he's a first baseman like you, right? First baseman like you from a small town like you. Right. And he came here as a walk-on, and he redshirted as a freshman. In his sophomore year, he led the league in home runs. I think his name was like Will Wyatt or something like that. I remember I had a WW. I said, just think of how much more you affect the memory structures in that coach's brain if, when you get that 45 seconds to speak to him at his camp, instead of asking him, hey, coach, what are you looking for? You say, hey, coach, I want to be your next Will Wyatt. That one sentence has a presence to it that demonstrates you know how to prepare. You're smart. You know exactly what kind of player you are, and you know exactly what succeeds in his program. It transcends. It changes the trajectory of the conversation. It changes the memory that they're going to have of you as an individual who could contribute to their team someday. So I definitely would recommend doing that. My last question for you guys for the audience is, Tony, if you're a high school kid, any age, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, if you are a high school kid who wants to play college baseball, what is the one thing or one thing that you should go and do right now?
Get stronger. Learn how to slow the game down.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to double click into that. What do you when a coach watches a player and they see an ability to slow the game down, what is it about that player that they see? How do they do that?
Just taking batting practice instead of, coming to the ball and spinning out because you want to do so well. Somebody who just sits back and just takes batting practice, goes the opposite field gap, nice fluid swing, and doesn't care about pounding the ball over the fence. That gets my attention really quick.
Have intent. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, have
When
Mhm.
intent.
players demonstrate they have a habit of being intentional about how they're functioning is crucial.
Yeah,
Crucial.
yeah. I mean, be very diligent in what you're trying to achieve. Have a purpose. Even, you're taking ground balls. Every ground ball matters. Take them with a purpose.
Kyle, same question for you. Prospective high school athlete who wants to play in college. What's the thing that they should be doing right now?
I have to piggyback on the strength issue as well. The game has gotten bigger and faster and stronger, especially at the college level. Um, so put yourself in a beneficial spot by prioritizing time for strength and conditioning, for strength training. It's extremely important, and that was something I figured out on my own as a young player. I wasn't as big as I am now. I went into college probably 165, 170, soaking wet as a catcher. Um, but I was strong and I worked out and I could do that. But also like Tony said, demonstrate a professionalism about your work ethic and what it is that you do on a daily basis. That's how the game slows down. Show that you have an approach. Show that you, as a hitter, show that you have an approach. Show that it's not. I don't want to see a guy consistently going up to the plate and getting beat 3 out of 4 times with a bad approach. Adjust to the game, understand the game, understand your strengths and weaknesses and how you can take advantage of those to influence the outcome or to impact the game in a positive way. Whether that's with your intelligence as like a middle infielder, maybe deking a guy on a ground ball, or in the outfield, a low line drive that you're coming in like you've got it, and just those little intangible things that show that you have an understanding of how to play baseball, right? And that you're not just an athlete that's good at sports, that's also a baseball player, because there's a difference. Great athletes there are great athletes who are great baseball players, but very often there are guys that are just know how to play the game. Show that you have an understanding of how to play the game and that you have an approach to how you prepare yourself to play that is superior to other people that may be at the same level. Because if you carry that consistently to those next levels, there's success will follow you when it comes to that. So understanding those kinds of things, because they're going to watch that. They're going to watch how you play catch. They're going to watch how you warm up. Like Tony said, they're going to watch how you take ground balls in and out. That might be the only ball you get hit to you when that guy's there to see you. So why not show them that you've got feet and hands? Why not show them that you know how to move your body into a position for a cutoff? We're talking about catchers and voice. There's an opportunity in that 15 minutes or 10 minutes of infield outfield where you show that you know how to set up for a proper cutoff play that's hit to right field, that's hit to center field, that you know how to put a tag down, you know how to be athletic with balls that are coming to you. Those are things where, hey, that guy moves around the plate well. He has awareness of where he is. He knew exactly where that ball, he got on eye level with that short hop that came when he didn't get the long hop that he probably should have got from the right fielder. And he put a tag down nicely. And then his footwork put him into a position to look for what's next, those kinds of things. So yeah, if your work ethic can translate, and your preparedness and your professionalism about what you do and how you approach it are easily recognizable from the minute you step on that field, like, who's not going to notice you? So
I will make my parting shot, since you guys both said strength. Working out, absolutely strength. A reminder to parents and players: you will not get stronger unless you eat and sleep.
Mm-hmm. Turn your phone off.
Get off your phone, eat, sleep, and train. And I would have to say, my one piece of advice, there is nothing more magnetic for a college coach than enthusiasm. Learn how to demonstrate that you have enthusiasm for every part of the game when you are on the field and being observed. Enthusiasm in your demeanor, enthusiasm in your voice, enthusiasm in the way you throw the ball around the horn, for goodness sakes. Never miss an opportunity to demonstrate enthusiasm. It is so crucial. If you want somebody that doesn't know you and doesn't have very much time to evaluate you, the easiest way to stick out and become memorable to them is to demonstrate enthusiasm. If your skills are what they are, what's going to make you stick out is how enthusiastic that you are, how resilient that you are when it comes to failure and when you don't operate like you should. Enthusiasm is absolutely crucial. And as the Harbaugh brothers would say, may we demonstrate an enthusiasm that is unknown to mankind, right? That in you. That is my absolute best advice. So, yeah. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you very much. This was a joy. I could do this one again with you guys. I think I could talk hitting and catching with you guys for hours.
I think we just scratched the surface, to be honest with you.
Yeah, true.
We got to come back and do this again because we didn't even have Nino.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
Put it on the
I wanted to hear his answers.
I know. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to interview Nino. We're going to redo this episode and we'll interview Nino. I'll get with you guys on scheduling so we can make it happen here in a couple of months.
It'll be the lightning round for Nino.
Yeah. Oh, man. I love you guys.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, all right, fellas. See ya.
Okay.